Good afternoon, everyone. It's always hard to be the speaker that has to bring a room that's comfortably chatting to quiet, but thank you. I'm Sherry Sager, and I'm the chair of the board for SAMCEDA, and I'm also the Chief Government and Community Relations Officer for Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, and it is my distinct honor to welcome you all here this afternoon for our annual SAMCEDA meeting. And I think that you will find that we have an exciting program. We tried this format for the first time last year, and based on the response, we decided to bring it back again a second year. Okay, I just told Roseanne that I would take care of the slides, and I have to remember to do that. Rather than going through and doing a whole lot of here's a name and an introduction. On the board, on the screen, we have the names of our sponsors. These are Platinum Circle sponsors, and they are scattered throughout the room, and I want to do a special thank you to all of them because they are really the backbone and the foundation of our finances that allow us to survive year to year. And if any of you are not yet members of SAMCEDA, we'd welcome you. SAMCEDA is an exciting place, and I think Roseanne will give you a little bit more, but from a board member's perspective, it really is a place where all things are happening. Santa Clara County, lots of things happen down there, and in San Francisco, but they can't do it without the middle, and SAMCEDA is the middle that holds it all together. So we're delighted that you're here. So let's see if I do this right. Okay, some more Platinum Circle sponsors. I'll give you a second to read them, and then we're going to go to our corporate and business sponsors. And if your name's not up here, we'd love to see it here in the future. And then our media sponsor, the San Francisco Business Times. Now, again, in the interest of saving some time, I'm just going to show the slides with everyone's name, but with all of the members of the SAMCEDA board who are here, please stand and be recognized. And they are an incredibly gifted and great group to work with. And again, we were going to try and name all of the elected officials here and former, but you know what happens is you always forget someone. So based on who RSVP'd, we have a list of the elected officials that we are expecting here and those that are here representing state legislators and federal legislators because they are either in Sacramento or Washington, hopefully working to make things better for all of us. But I'd like to invite all elected officials and those representing elected officials to please rise so we can acknowledge them. And with that, I get to invite up to the podium, and I admit to being a little biased. Like many of you, I serve on a lot of boards and get to see an awful lot of very talented people, but it is with great pleasure that I introduce Roseanne Faust, who I think is actually one of the best CEOs, whether it's nonprofit, business community, former elected official. She keeps, oh, I can't do that one, sorry. That would be a really bad pun. She keeps the organization running and makes sure that San Mateo County is an integral member of decision-making bodies that help to determine the quality and the health and safety of our future. Roseanne Faust.
Welcome, San Mateo County. Let's hear a huge round of applause for all of you in the audience today. SAMCEDA wouldn't be who it is. We wouldn't be the strong organization that we've been since 1953 without the support of all the people in this room, the people who came before you, and the people that will come after you. I feel honored and privileged to lead the organization at this point in time. I feel extraordinarily lucky to have the kind of chair and board of directors that I have. All of our sponsors, Platinum, corporate, business, our media sponsor, we are truly unique in San Mateo County. And I think looking around the room, to have elected officials here with us today is hugely important. It is a combination of all of us that make this county so strong. I want to remind you to please post on Facebook, please post on LinkedIn, and tweet. Feel free to tweet as much as you want today. I'm also going to encourage you, if you have an Instagram account, because I know one of our speakers from Starship was posting on Instagram before. That'll be something SAMCEDA needs to look into. We got to keep up with this. I'm not sure we're ever going to get to Snapchat, but who knows? We might. So please go ahead. We also, thanks to Amanda Hawkins, on my team, we have an app that you can learn more about the speakers, the program today, the bios, the information on all of our sponsors. If you would like to do that, feel free. But let me tell you a little bit about SAMCEDA. But before I do that, there are two things I want to do right now. One, I'd like to wish one of our board members a very happy birthday today, Doug Reynolds with Kaiser. Happy birthday, Doug. I would also like to acknowledge, and really, folks, this is a historic time in San Mateo County. Caltrain, just over a week and a half ago, was able to sign the FFGA, full-funded grant agreement with the Federal Transit Administration. $647 million coming to San Mateo County, Santa Clara, and San Francisco for the electrification of Caltrain. And I'm going to ask Jim Hartnett, the CEO of Caltrain, and his team around this table to stand up, because while all of us in the business community did a lot, they did the heavy lifting. And there are members of his team, Seamus Murphy, Casey Fromson, who aren't with us here today, and a whole host of other team members at Caltrain. Honestly, this is the beginning of a new transportation era on the peninsula. And that brings me to talking about who is SAMCEDA. And this slide was the best way that we could illustrate who we are. If you look at the circles, they represent the different groups that SAMCEDA connects with, that we convene. They represent the spokes. SAMCEDA on the slide is in the center, but it is one part of Peninsula Mobility Group, which we founded after C3, the Caltrain Commuter Coalition, was put together. NOVA, the Workforce Investment Board, Home for All, thank you, Supervisor Horsley. You and Supervisor Slocum initiated that effort with Carol Groom, Dave Canepa, Dave Pine. I mean, Home for All is going to make a difference in our community. Joint venture, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, our partners at the Redwood City San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce, who we do so much with. Our other chambers of commerce, many of you are represented here today, the San Mateo Area Chamber, Commute.org, HART. I mean, all of those folks on this list and many more are how SAMCEDA reaches the depth and breadth of our activities, our advocacy, and our education. I'm going fast. Moving forward, we convene. This is what we're convening today, THRED Talks. Another one of our signature events. I recognize many of you from our Innovators event held in this room in March when we highlight innovation and entrepreneurship in San Mateo County. I look at the Connect Conference, of which we're partners with Assemblymember Mullen and Supervisor Slocum. I look at our economic outlook with the Redwood City San Mateo County Chamber. We convene groups to bring you together, to network, to learn, and actually to innovate. There are so many conversations that will come out of today that you'll move forward. You have our annual update in front of you, and I can tell you that's a small part of all that we do on a regular basis, but it gives you a snapshot. We also contribute. This is a new graphic that we're introducing today because the whole idea of THRED Talks is weaving the county together. But what does it also mean? The trunk of a tree with our 5 big issues with transportation, housing, regionalism, economy, and development, and then all the leaves that are a part of the tree. And we tried to capture as many issues as we're all involved with. San Mateo County does collaboration, which is why it's at the top of the tree, better than anyone else. I would say not just the Bay Area, but nationwide. So again, it's another way to say thank you. So there's another slide that'll eventually come back up, because we can wing this, that is about communicating. How many of you receive our SAMCEDA e-newsletters, where we try to communicate issues? If you notice, they're never sent out on the same day or at the same time, or even sometimes you won't receive one for several weeks. But we try to communicate with you on issues that make a difference and that will get you excited and engaged, because that's what this is about. So I'm going to do a little dance up here. If anyone would like to join me, we could do that, because I do want to move on and kick off our THRED Talks. And we're very excited. We have 6 amazingly dynamic speakers today. And when you hear them talk, and they're going to talk about the big 5 issue, but as you saw the leaves on the tree, they're going to talk about so many other things that will touch you. It'll touch you from education. It'll educate you about tourism. It'll bring the economy into play. And it's certainly going to touch on housing and transportation, which is something that all of us are focused on daily. But on behalf of SAMCEDA, on behalf of the organization that I feel so good about being a part of and a member of and having the ability to lead it at this point in time, I am grateful that you're here. I am most grateful to our speakers today. You have a bio sheet on your table. This is an impressive lineup of speakers. As I was reading their bios, I was like, wow, we really did good. We did good. So the first speaker that I'm going to bring up today is the president of the San Francisco 49ers, Al Guido.
No?
Yes.
All right, I'm on now. I can be loud. I was a 5'8" quarterback, so I can yell out a play every once in a while. First and foremost, let me thank SAMCEDA, let me thank Sherry, let me thank Roseanne. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. Give yourselves a round of applause for a great event. So on your bio sheets, raise your hand if you're from the Bay Area and a 49ers fan. All right, there's a lot of you. So don't look down at my bio, I promise. I work for the Dallas Cowboys. You're allowed to boo. It's okay. All right. Roseanne said something that was interesting to me, and I like to take notes as I go. She said that SAMCEDA is about weaving a county together. And when I got to the San Francisco 49ers 8 years ago, I thought about how do we weave a region together. And just to back up a little bit of how we got to Santa Clara, for those of you who all raise your hand as 49ers fans, you'll know that we passed 2 ballot measures, not while I was here, but in the past, to build a stadium in San Francisco. And there was a lot of debate around where the 49ers might go, and are the 49ers moving? And our owner, Jed York, used to talk about franchises that were moving, and obviously they grew up in Ohio, same with Eddie D, and the Cleveland Browns once moved. That's moving. We felt as though, obviously, to build a stadium that we were trying to get done, which is 2 million square feet, it's $1.3 billion, that was not just going to be about 10 games. We needed to look at the overall infrastructure and where we could go. And so my job when I first got on board was I was part of a large consulting firm that went around the country looking at stadiums. I had worked on now the Atlanta Falcons, the LA buildings. I had worked on the Dallas Cowboys. I'd worked on Manchester City. I've worked all over the world in how do we get buildings done, how do we make them economically viable outside of just their 10, or hopefully in all of our cases, because we're 49ers fans, 12 home games a year. And to do that, we thought Santa Clara was the perfect spot. We have a number of partners here in the room that help us pull those off. And Levi's Stadium, if you think about the great brands, the 49ers are a tremendous brand. They're the 5-time Super Bowl champions, as we all know. But at Candlestick Park, we were in an old venue. And I often ask people to raise their hands if they had great times and they have great memories of Candlestick Park. Everyone raises their hands. If they say, how was the traffic and transportation and food and everything else, those hands go down. And that's not to knock the venue. Obviously, it was an older building that wasn't renovated. And the simple thing I always tell people is think about this math equation. Before it was the San Francisco 49ers, it was a 35,000-seat ballpark. And there were how many roads in and out? Does anybody know? 2. They added 35,000 seats on the upper deck. Does anybody know how many roads were in and out? 2. So that math equation wasn't going to work for very long. And on top of that, the San Francisco 49ers, to be competitive, were actually 31st or 30th in revenue across the entire NFL. It's hard to believe, right? 5-time Super Bowl champions. Candlestick Park wasn't hosting major events. You'd host a concert here and there, but for the most part, those events would either go to Oracle Arena or SAP in San Jose or AT&T Ballpark. So for us, we had to take a step back and say, what's the best thing for the San Francisco 49ers in the overall region, given what we want to become? And a stadium had not been built in California. Does anybody know how many years? 50. 50 years. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do in this region, as we all know, right? Public taxpayer funds, there wasn't an appetite for it. The San Francisco Giants did a fantastic job privately financing a building. We wanted to do something similar. We wanted to partner with someone in the region that could help us pull that off. Because we knew that if we did it right, now, mind you, if we did Q&A, I could tell you a lot of things we haven't done right. If we did it right, that we would spur economic growth more than any other venue in the world. And I think we've done that. So when we opened up the building, our goal was for the building to have a brand unto itself. And if you think about the really great venues in our life, sports or outside of sports, I'll name some in the sports world. You think about Wrigley Field. You think about Fenway Park. You think about Yankee Stadium. You think about Madison Square Garden. Those are brands unto themselves. Those are sports and entertainment hubs, right? They are meccas. They are destination events or destination buildings that people want to go to. So how do we build a stadium that not just hosts 49ers games, but how do we build a stadium that becomes one of those? And for us, it was, first and foremost, traffic and transportation. Where do we want to be? The VTA has been a great partner. We do up to 15 to 18% ridership on game day. And I believe that number will increase over time. We believe the infrastructure with the hotels and convention centers in the areas around Santa Clara help us put on large-scale events. Taking a step back for a second. You used to need 3 things to host a Super Bowl. Does anybody know what those 3 things are? You can yell them out. All right, so you need a stadium. That's one. I heard in the front there was airport, which I would just say is infrastructure. Let's just say infrastructure. So hotels, airports, convention centers. There's a third one, which is actually unique to what we just walked in from. Good weather. Technically, the three things that you needed was a stadium, a certain amount of infrastructure, which is not broadly, but specifically defined as 20,000 hotel rooms within about a 20-mile radius of the venue. And the third one was an average temperature of 55 degrees or above at kickoff. That was it. And the last stadium, or the last Super Bowl held in the Bay Area is now this one you should know, is what? Minus Super Bowl 50. 1984 in Stanford. So when the NFL, which by the way, the 49ers played in and won. So when the NFL did away with college venues and became NFL venues, those were the three criteria that you needed to host a Super Bowl. Obviously, we thought we could pull off all three of those given our infrastructure. And what does that mean? So for us, we've hosted 39 large-scale events since we opened up Levi Stadium just 3.5 years ago. We've hosted the Super Bowl. We're about to host the Gold Cup. We've hosted Copa America, which is the world's largest soccer, one of the world's largest soccer tournaments. We host the Pac-12 Championship. We've hosted WrestleMania for all of those inspiring wrestling fans. We hosted the NHL outdoor game, which speaks to the strength of the San Jose Sharks as a market. A non-traditional hockey market in the Bay Area hosted 70,000 people in Santa Clara. We're about to host the 2019 College Football National Championship game. All of these events, just these events alone, either total up or anticipated to bring $750 million of economic impact to this region. Thank you. So we couldn't do that without your support. We couldn't do that with infrastructure. We couldn't do that without our partners. We couldn't do that with a forward-thinking approach as to what the venue was going to be, not just today, but 30 years from now. And for those of you who go down to the venue, I'll be the first one to tell you, we haven't figured it all out. We've struggled on the field. It's the obvious. We've struggled off the field. Operationally, it's been a challenge. And I'll tell you why. We employ 4,000 people on game day. Most people, we actually are a small company. Our employee staff size is roughly only about 375 people. But on a game day alone, it's 4,000. We are working in a city, and this is not a knock, that had not pulled off a major event. Obviously in the city of San Francisco, those happen, quote unquote, every day, right? In the city of San Jose, those are happening today with the Apple conference. Our city was a smaller city that had not pulled off a major event to that size. That's one reason. The second reason, any of you ever moved into a new home or bought an apartment? I'm sure all of you. Can you find your fork or knife day two? Probably not, right? You're scrambling. So think about 4,000 part-time employees in a 2 million square foot radius, or 2 million square foot building, trying to tell people where to go with about 2 months to prepare. It's almost near impossible. And then think about that on the scale of we're trying to bring 70,000 people into an area within about a 30-minute time frame who have never maybe come down to the venue in and of itself. So we have a lot of things that we have to work through, and we'll get there. And we're getting better every single day. And for us, it became, obviously those are the challenges of today. The opportunities of tomorrow, there's a 250-acre development that's happening north of us right on the golf course. For all of you who love the ballpark, and I am one of them, China Basin 15 years ago when the Giants opened to what it is today is very different. And we need to take a long view of what that looks like. Sherry said that the middle does a lot of things, right? I often tell our season ticket holders when we were moving, because I understand that it's, at times it became tough, right? The San Francisco moniker. We still are the San Francisco 49ers. 7% of our season ticket holders lived in San Francisco. The majority of them were in the middle. 7% of them lived in San Francisco when we played in San Francisco. So a lot of our decision was around what's going to be best long term. What's going to spur economic development? If you look at what the San Francisco 49ers have done just in Santa Clara, TOT taxes are up over 30% since the year that we opened. Hotel occupancy rates are off the charts. Economic development is fantastic. right? We continue to win large-scale events that are outside the 49ers landscape. So I think we're doing a great job there. The second piece, before I get to the last piece, which is football, is what do we want to be to the community? The 49ers they're more than just the 10 games we play or the large-scale events that we host. We're in your community day in and day out. What I love most about our players, most of our players will probably retire or be done playing football prior to their 28th birthday. So yes, they love football, but they're passionate about a number of things. Their passion goes to things inside and outside of the community that they are committed to day in and day out. What are we, the 49ers, committed to? The 49ers Foundation, which is now up for the third year in a row for the ESPN Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year Award, has committed over $30 million in the 25 years of its existence. We have an education program on our actual footprint. We've created a STEAM curriculum. We have 8 full-time teachers. We engage 60,000 kids, K through 8, fully funded by the San Francisco 49ers 365 days a year. We've done our best to expand that platform into your classrooms or into your kids' classrooms. I have 3 daughters, 8, 6, and 4. And what it means to be, I get the greatest job. I get to work for a sports and entertainment company. I walk onto a field every day. It's pretty easy. What you do is really change the world. But how do we take our brand? How do we take our sports affinity? How do we take the love of the game and build it into the classroom? How do we show that Joe Montana's spiral goes further than somebody else's wobbly duck, right? There's a lot of science in that. And so we've partnered with folks like the Khan Academy to deliver our curriculum, the 49ers' own written curriculum, online to every single kid in the Bay Area community so that they can learn STEAM elements taught to them via the concepts of sport and/or stadium design. The third part, and I'll leave you with because you're all 49ers fans, is we know we're about football games. We know we're about winning Super Bowls. We know what's important to all of you. We know we have to do those other 2 things, be in the community, be great partners, bring big events here. That is our responsibility. What we love and what I love about sports. As you can see by my stature, I was never big enough to play in the NFL. What we love about sports, and what we hope we can all have you down at Levi's to do, is the immediate impact with the person right next to you, a complete stranger. I challenge anyone in the world, like people think about sports as a dying breed, or they talk about ratings, or they talk about obviously the injuries, and all of that stuff needs to be debated. But the one thing you can't debate is the passion and energy around sports and what it does to people. Most of you are probably coffee drinkers. You walked inside of a coffee shop today. I won't pick any one. But you walked inside a coffee shop today, you stared down at your phone until you got to the cashier, and then you ordered your drink, and you stared down at your phone until you got your drink. Sports, you can be inside a stadium. As long as that person's wearing red and gold next to you and you're cheering for red and gold, if a good play happens, you're high-fiving with that individual the next second. Name me another place that happens. And so I'm really excited about this coming football season. I think what you're going to find, we hired John Lynch as our general manager. Obviously played at Stanford, played under Bill Walsh. They call him, Steve Young calls him the adopted son. They've brought him into the community, into the family. We've hired Kyle Shanahan. For those of you, obviously 49ers fans, you know of Mike Shanahan, the fact that he coached under Bill Walsh, the fact that he was here when we won a Super Bowl in 1994, 1995. Kyle talks about being a ball boy in Redwood City when we were in Redwood City doing our training camp. We had 10 draft picks this year. We drafted 2 guys that were arguably in the top 5 of any board out there. So we're committed to getting back. We know what it means. I was down at the Warriors game last night with my wife having a lot of fun. And don't get me wrong, I'm rooting for them hard, but there's a part of me that says, man, I can't wait till we get back there. And we will. And so with that, I'll just probably end it, and if we have a chance for questions and answers, I'll be around the rest of the day. But I just want to thank you all for doing the big things that matter the most to us. And we are willing, as your partner, to engage in any conversation that you want to have, because we feel that we obviously are a beacon into the community. We're there to spur economic growth. We're there to deal with the tough challenges that exist today. Obviously, Caltrain is a fantastic partner, and they've done a great job. And how do we fix these large-scale issues? And we're your partner in those, because to fix those means it actually helps us too. It helps bring these events into the region. And so we're here to be involved with you, to campaign alongside of you, to deal with these big tackling issues. And at the same time, we're there to win football games. And I think what I leave you with is, it's important for us that you know, of course, our mission, our vision is to always be a Super Bowl champion. Our why is to go a step further for someone so that they feel part of our family at the 49ers. So if we can ever do that for any one of you, please reach out. Thank you very much for the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Justin Hoffmann, Head of Operations of Starship Technologies.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is this a clicker? Okay, thank you. Is the microphone on? All right. Let's just get this set up. I think we have slides. All right. No. All right. What a hunk. What a great talk that was. Boy, he can do this in his sleep. I'm not very happy about having to follow up as the speaker to that. Great job. Can we get a round of applause one more time for Al? I'm just going to get something ready. Got a little surprise for you guys. But anyways, so one thing, before I get into kind of the Starship and sort of what we're looking to do, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Foster City, so I'm a local. Went to school at the College of San Mateo before transferring to UC Berkeley, working for Credit Suisse's M&A team after college before starting my own tech startup, and then eventually joining Starship as the head of operations for the West Coast. And one question that we think about a lot at Starship is, what if we could make local on-demand delivery virtually costless? And what if we can do so while reducing congestion and pollution in our busy downtown areas, even in the midst of hyper growth in e-commerce? Starship is looking to make a quantum leap in solving the last mile delivery problem with the introduction of the world's first commercially available autonomous delivery robot. This is the real star of the show. I'm just the human. So a little bit about the company. Some of you may have heard of Skype, which sold to Microsoft for several billion. They disrupted the telecom industry, changed it forever, and they're looking to do the same thing for last mile logistics. It was started by Skype co-founders, and now we have over 125 employees globally. And we are the leader in this emerging industry of ground-based delivery robots. And so we have operations now in 6 cities in 5 different countries. We just launched the US earlier this year, and we are currently in the Bay Area and Washington, DC. And it's a very exciting time. We work with companies such as DoorDash and Postmates, which you may have heard of, doing food deliveries, package deliveries, and grocery delivery. So the last mile problem is essentially that there's not much room for further optimization on the cost side for package delivery companies or on-demand delivery companies because of the stagnant cost structure of human labor and vehicle costs. And historically, companies have resorted to marginal 1 or 2 or 3 percentage point enhancements, but it has resulted in more inconvenience for the deliveries. So, you may have come home, for example, to a sticker on your door saying, hey, we tried to deliver your package and you weren't here because obviously you're at work. We're looking to flip that around and actually have you be able to determine when you want your packages to be delivered. All the while, consumer expectations are going through the roof and pushing the economics in the opposite direction, wanting inexpensive and convenient delivery immediately. 2-day shipping is too late, right? They want it same day, same hour. So our mission is to build the world's first, our mission is to build the world, just read the slide, Justin. So our mission is to build the world's most efficient local on-demand delivery service. And essentially our business model is a B2B2C template wherein we partner with large corporate companies and essentially deliver on behalf of them to the end users. We focus on food delivery, groceries, and packages, like I mentioned earlier, and we essentially are building a fleet of neighborhood robots that small businesses can utilize in the face of growth in e-commerce, which has been crippling our local mom-and-pop shops and also brick-and-mortar businesses. So we aim to provide convenient on-demand delivery in a 1 to 2 mile radius within 45 minutes. And it's a pay-as-you-go model. So think of it as a platform as a service with robot delivery as the service. And so the lawyer term for our delivery robot is a personal delivery device, a PDD. And essentially it uses underutilized infrastructure in our public, in our public cities, such as sidewalks and road crossings. So we don't drive in the cyclist lane, we don't drive on the streets. They cruise at about 4 miles per hour, which is a brisk walking speed. And they're equipped with 9 cameras and ultrasonic sensors, so that it's able to navigate within 1 inch of precision. It can intelligently anticipate obstacles around it and avoid it accordingly. That includes pedestrians, general obstacles like trash cans and trees that are blocking the sidewalks, I don't know, and traffic situations. And the robotic fleets are essentially monitored by human operators from anywhere around the world who are able to monitor and assist robots in times of need. Otherwise, they drive autonomously. They're able to carry about 20 pounds, which is approximately 3 grocery bags, if you will, and they are locked when they're in transit to the customer. So if I actually go up to it and try to open it, you won't be able to. As a customer, you'll receive a text message, and you'll have a link, and the link will have a button. The button will be able to unlock the robot, and I wish you guys could see on the inside, but feel free to drop by afterwards. But essentially, there's enough room for 3 grocery bags. So these are super safe robots. Safety and economic viability are baked into the DNA of the company. These robots are extremely inexpensive to make. We're bringing down the cost of production to about $1,000, or the same price as like an expensive iPhone, because we're aiming to bring down the cost of delivery to about $1. I won't bore you too much with the technology, but essentially it has a sensor suite around it, uses computer vision, radar, and infrared and ultrasonic sensors. So it creates a bubble of perception and awareness whenever it's in travel to a given destination, and it's able to detect and avoid obstacles with very strong accuracy. And so, we've traveled over 30,000 miles to date in public sidewalks, have encountered over 5.5 million people, and have not had a single incident to date. That's how good this robot is. And we're not looking to build 100% autonomous robots. We're looking to build what we call 99% autonomous robots, because we always want to have a human be able to supervise and assist the robot in times of need. So for example, whenever it reaches a road crossing, you'll always have a human operator looking through the cameras, making sure that the roads are clear and safe to cross. And so this is more of a visualization of sort of what a local delivery fleet might look like for small businesses, restaurants, and so on. And so we can essentially perform deliveries within a 2-mile radius, within 45 minutes, and we're already doing so in 6 different cities every single day in 5 different countries, 4 in Europe and the United States. More specifically, right here in Redwood City, San Carlos, Sunnyvale, and Washington, D.C. The consumer experience is flawless. You order food from DoorDash, for example, and you might have a robot come to your door instead of a human. You'll be able to track the robot as if it were an Uber with live tracking on a map. And when it arrives to you, it'll let you know it's outside, and it'll meet you at your front door and give you the button to unlock the robot. We have over 100 robots globally, and we have tested in 63 cities around the world. Like I mentioned, we had traveled over 30,000 miles in public sidewalks and encountered 5.5 million people along the way. Social acceptance is very interesting. The first time folks see the robot, they're ecstatic. They're taking pictures, Snapchats, as was mentioned earlier, which people use, people my age, I suppose. And what's interesting is that the second time they see it, it's almost like a sort of a decay function. So the first time they see it, get really excited. Second time, it just dramatically drops off. They might kind of look over their shoulder. Third time, it's as if we don't even exist. And that's kind of what we were hoping to do, because we want to operate invisibly in the background of everyday life. We want to make autonomous delivery robots mainstream and widely adopted, and turning kind of deliveries into something that you don't really think about. It just kind of happens. It's magic. You push a button, you order food, you order groceries, and it just comes to your door when you're actually home. And so to date, even though we've encountered over 5 million people, we have not had a single accident, which is a huge kudo to our engineering team who have developed and continually iterates the product over time as it gathers data every single day that it's operational. Kids obviously love us. We actually aim to get names from kids because we're looking to name the robot. We've been having naming contests for the last 2.5 years, trying to nail down the perfect name. We just haven't been able to do it yet, but we hear the darndest things from kids, and they make our day. In fact, on Valentine's Day, a couple little third graders handed the robot some flowers, and it was a pretty magical moment, if I may say so myself. And that's it. This is our COO, Alan Martinson. If you have any questions or would like to bring the robot delivery service to your city, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome James Jaber, founder, CEO, and captain of Prop.
Do I need the clicker? Yeah, I'll just leave it on the project. Okay. Nice work, thank you. Is the mic on? Oh, it is, okay. Hit the clicker. There I am. All right, well, here I am. Thanks for having me. I want to thank the SAMCEDA organization, Dawn Cecil, both Amandas, and especially Roseanne Faust. It's been an honor to work with her, and her leadership is, I think, crucial to affecting change in the region, so thanks, Roseanne. Many of you may have heard of my company in varying capacities after having worked with Facebook for a year and currently working with a large biopharma. Both these companies, by the way, are very progressive in transportation thinking and progressive in many ways as well, so it's an honor to be working with them. I think it's important for us to use this opportunity so that I could give a little bit of background about myself, and it helps sort of understand how I came up with the vision and where our core values lie. In 1978, and I know that's a goofy picture, but I'll get to that in a second, my parents honeymooned in Lake Tahoe. Actually, it was not 78, it was many years before that, but there were several families that sort of played around on the beach in the summertime, and one of the dads was a daredevil, no other way to say it. He had some of his friends towing him in a hang glider behind a boat so that he could have fun on the lake. There were so many things wrong with that from a physics perspective that he then you know, he wanted to take his friends and family up to give him a similar experience, flying him around in the air. And so what he did is he took an Army parachute and cut holes in the back, not quite as nice as the ones there, and sealed them up with duct tape and dental floss so that he could tow his friends and family around the lake and drop them in the water. I was 5 years old at the time when that happened, and over the years, it just continued to progress, and we were credited with the advent of commercial parasailing after a newspaper reporter from the San Francisco Chronicle wrote up with us in 1978. And I think to be exposed to that entrepreneurial spirit at such an early age and the safety and just working with the public, I was able to, that influenced me throughout my life. I've been a captain for 20 years, working in various capacities. And as you'll see, that goofy picture there is the bay. I started working on a supply vessel in 2012, delivering crew and cargo to ships that were moored in the bay. When you drive across the bridge, you see those ships that are out there anchored. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to earn a paycheck and not run a business. So I did that. And that's the picture that I would send to my friends and family, wondering why there are no boats on the bay. You can see it's beautiful. There's glass, you know, but there's no boats. And especially looking south to San Mateo, the bridge, I noticed that it was just such a nice run, you know, literally. And I would send that picture out to my friends and family and get replies of bumpers and taillights and explicatives and other interesting remarks. And so literally I put the two together and realized that if I could and somehow improve the people that I care about, it would translate into large-scale enjoyment of life, really, if I could alleviate traffic somehow. So I put the two together and began in earnest creating Prop, what it was. We still, you know, we're still figuring out what it actually is, but as we began developing the vision, we realized that there were vastly underutilized areas in the Bay Area, marinas, for example. So our model actually utilizes existing infrastructure that doesn't require millions in the tens, 20s, and 30s of millions of dollars for the regular ferry terminals, and we're able to access neighborhoods. But we realized that there was a lot of work ahead of us in terms of policy, getting permission from the state. And thankfully, I think the crisis that is traffic has helped, frankly, cut some of the red tape and allow us to flourish, or begin to flourish, and create the transportation revolution that we're working on now. The other interesting piece that I'll add is that, you know, these are all very obvious points I'm making, but there is no eminent domain. There is no right-of-way. There is no big infrastructure outlays or permits. We can deploy boats in a matter of months. And while some people may say that my company is a boutique service or maybe a limousine service on the water, we have to start somewhere. And I think that might be a sort of lacking vision. So now we're getting started. And you know, I think that the THRED talk is a apropos title for what we're doing here, because everything is tied together. The success of our company and the large-scale dent in traffic and housing, all of those things sort of weave together, and they all work together. Let's see here. So we have a solid, and it's nice to hear that we're going to move forward with the electrification of Caltrain, so that's great news. Nice work, guys. Thanks for that. Still, we feel like the solution is to unlock the Bay Area and the waters of the Bay in large scale. The bridges, as we know, I was parked on the San Mateo Bridge coming over here looking at glass, and a lot of single occupancy vehicles. Everywhere I look, there's one person in their cars. And of course, BART, we all know how BART is. I don't need to go too far into that. And the public ferries. The public ferries are great. As a boat guy, I love those boats. They've done a great job at designing the vessels, and the terminals are amazing. I think Prop fits in there as a a Hornet fleet, and our vision includes frequency so that it actually becomes real. We don't have to look at a schedule. The ultimate vision would have 50 or 100 boats running around the bay from San Leandro, eventually San Jose, Alviso, to Redwood City, San Mateo, all the way up to San Francisco, even up the Napa and Benicia, Antioch, Pittsburgh, Hercules, areas that would be, the ridership would be too low for the larger public ferries. So we feel like we have a great shot at it, and it's just an untapped waterway, as I said in the title, but as I was thinking about what I was going to say today, a lot of these points, these are things that we already know. And we're here, we've done a lot of the work now, and I think it takes leadership, investment, and a buy-in in our vision to proliferate that. Our boats, the revolution starts today at 2 o'clock when the boats leave the dock, and again tomorrow at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. when they leave the dock. And if we can keep that momentum going with more and more buy-in and leadership and investment, then soon we can affect a change on the entire region and not just enough people for 1 or 2 vessels. So with that, it's a short presentation, but with that, I want to encourage everyone to look at our company, come down and check out the boats. We're accessible, and we are looking for just the buy-in, for everybody. And I want to thank you for having me out here today. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ann LeClair, President and CEO of SMC SV Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So I want to thank Roseanne, as did all the other speakers for today. Roseanne and SAMCEDA for having us here. We have a similar challenge, or pleasure actually, in promoting our entire county as a region. So why are we here? It's not an existential question. They only gave me 10 minutes. Why is the Bureau here? We're here to put heads in beds. Basically, our #1 charge is to bring people into the area, ideally get them to stay overnight, multiple nights, and get them to spend as much money as possible while they're here. And we promote paradise. So yeah, I did bring notes because I have a bad force field with technology, and just in case, and if I get wound up talking about what we have to offer, we could be here all day. We have the best job in the world. We get to promote a lot. Why are we important? Why is the visitor industry important? This is going to come back later. If you remember nothing else that I say to you today, you're going to remember the hand, and we'll come back to it. And I know all the overachievers in the audience are going to think about this the whole time I'm giving you numbers. So try and put it in the back of your mind. We will come back to it. Okay, why are we important? Transit occupancy tax revenue, TOT as we call it, pays for city services. Most people don't think about it. The city people know. Your police, your fire, libraries, parks and rec, it's critical. And if the cities ever didn't think about it, they sure thought about it when the recession hit, because they were making cuts. They were trying to decide, what's the least painful thing we can cut? When times are good, they're saying, what do we want to give our residents? What do we want to provide? What have we wanted to do? Do we need a new rec center? Do we need a new city hall? When times are good, the cities are happy. The other thing I wanted to mention too is, in addition to the TOT, 43,000 jobs in San Mateo County are directly created because of the visitor industry. 43,000, you're not counting the ripple effect. Many of the hospitality jobs are 24/7, you're looking at 3 shifts. Think about the hotels, they don't have the luxury of closing on a holiday. 43,000 jobs, all of them spending money locally while they're here. So years ago, before I started, our board had a pretty small budget. They had some transit occupancy tax from some cities, not any money from others, a little bit from a few. and they said, this isn't going to work. With our caliber of properties, and we have some fantastic high-end, great properties, and our price point, we're competing with some pretty tough cities. So the only way to do it is to compete and pull together as a region. This is a little caricature map our sales team often uses. We tell people, meeting planners in particular, we offer every California experience in San Mateo County except snow sports. And think about it, it's true. It kills me when people say we're going up to the wine country. I say, are you kidding? We are the wine country. Have you ever been to our wineries? Come on. So what our board decided to do was form a tourism business improvement district. And the way it worked was, and still does, a city council votes in or doesn't participate. So all of the properties in the city are in or nobody's in. And luckily, just about everyone in our group, in our region, is in. It's highly competitive, as I mentioned. This gives you an idea. So here we are at 2.8 million, which allows us to do some substantial things. You know, the board in its wisdom years ago said we need a substantial sales team, we need to be in key markets, we need a true marketing effort, it'd be nice to have a film commission. This gives you an idea of our competition. These are our top competitors. So you can see where we are, right? So San Francisco recently put in a T-bid as well, and they get TOT, so they're at about 36 million a year. I wanted to include Vegas, but I didn't want these bars to be too small. People say, oh, you don't even want to know. It's disgusting what they have. So Vegas has a budget, an annual budget of $329 million. So when you're listening to the radio or watching TV and you're inundated by the ads, let me tell you, they're loaded. They have an entire research department that can tell you why anyone who comes there makes the decision to go. How long they stay. They can give you every fact. I think they have 10 researchers in the department who do nothing but analyze it, and every commercial you hear is geared to that. But here we are, and we're happy to have it. It works for us. Okay, just to give you an idea of the money. 2016 transit occupancy tax revenue to San Mateo County City is $92.2 million. In 2008, it was less than half that amount. So you know what a recession can do and how important our industry is. If you look at transit occupancy tax and sales tax, 2016, 153 million. And it was about 60% of that in 2010. So that gives you an idea of why it's important. How are they spending their money? Now this includes day trippers, the people who come in for a day, and we like to promote special events and have day trippers as well. We like the hotel guests, but you can see what happens. Really, accommodations and food, top priorities, transportation, I'm sure all of our people here today are happy to hear that, and retail sales. $470 million a year here in retail sales. Companies like Macy's will have a whole department geared to get tourist dollars from them. I should say, with the visitor spending time back here, I know when Al was speaking, we worked with the 49ers. We certainly worked hard on the Super Bowl, our team did, on the 2019 event as well. That's another example of going even beyond the county borders to bring in business, and we do benefit when we partner with you. So that gives you an idea of what they're spending here. Okay, when cities support us, here's what we're able to do. Our sales team, it's really, I don't know if any of you remember the show Laugh-In, or where people would go in and out of the doors all the time. That's what our sales team is like. We're in 45 trade shows a year minimum. So someone's always traveling. We have to have a board to keep track. They're there to attract the attention of meeting planners. We know if we can get them here to see the area, they're going to want to come here. We just have to let them see it. They love San Francisco as our closest neighbor. They love having SFO here. But when we can get them here, they want to stay here and they want to come back. It allows us to do sales missions in key cities in the US and overseas. Our international person does about 3 countries a year. We have sales managers deployed in the Midwest, the East Coast, Sacramento, as well as our international person and people in our office. We can bring in travel writers and media to increase awareness, fly them in, show them around, host them. The normal reaction we get is, we had no idea. Or we've flown through San Francisco, but we never knew this area existed. We never knew you had it. We've just driven north. We do familiarization tours for meeting planners and travel planners. They fall in love with the area. We also attract filming and room nights through the Film Commission. We have a film commissioner, and it's funny that Jamillah is going to be speaking today because we can't tell you the date, but sometime in the next week, a crew of 70 or 80 people will be filming for Old Navy, and they're going to film at Cañada College. And kudos to your team, because we heard from the producer today that the 2 people with whom he has worked at the college have been phenomenal. And this happens to be, yeah, thumbs up to you, because this producer has come back before and he'll be back again. Now, you won't probably recognize the college. They're going to build facades, but that's okay. They're going to be paying the college. They're hiring local caterers. They're hiring or renting porta potties, which may not sound exciting, but someone gets money out of it, right? So there we go. Now, we're making tremendous inroads with meeting planners, and there's great word of mouth. Once someone's been here, the word is out. But we still have an identity problem. We have a big identity problem with leisure travelers. They have no idea where they are. Think about it. They might be going to South San Francisco and going to the new San Rio store, but they're going for a crab sandwich at Nick's in Pacifica. A visitor doesn't differentiate. And one of the problems we have is of our own device, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. The way we can fix it is doing it as a region. We have to all get on board with this. Because what happens when we travel, and I know you've heard me say this before, and someone says, where are you from? What do we usually say? Right? San Francisco or San Francisco Bay Area. We need to step it up and say San Mateo County, just south of San Francisco. You don't find people from Orange County saying they're from LA, for sure. It's true. So, how can you help? First, change your answer to the question, where are you from? That's such a neat, simple fix, right? Continue to support our regional efforts. We really appreciate it. And again, the transportation things, room service delivery, all these things tie together into our industry. Tell us what's new in your cities or new with your organization. We send a survey out every year to every city, the economic development managers, and ask, who's hiring, who's coming in, what are you building, is there anyone laying off? This information helps hotel sales teams, helps our teams, helps the hotels project what their occupancy and their rates are going to be, which is very useful to the cities. New with your organization, you know, even the control tower at the airport, for example, we've glommed onto that, and we're trying to get the Air Traffic Controllers Association in. Anything new that we hear about, we'll try and target a group. Support entertainment in the area. Our research shows us the 2 weaknesses visitors perceive here are lack of entertainment and transportation, traffic. So all these things tie together. The good work people are doing with the high speed or the electrification of Caltrain and all that, all good to help us solve our problems. Make your film permitting process easy if you're a city. No matter where you are, send us pictures. They'll film everything from a 50s looking gas station to a parking lot to a high-tech building. We use everything we get. And if you happen to belong to some associations, give us the contact information and we'll go after them. We'll go after the meeting. So, if you really want to put us on the map, think regionally and raise your right hand. So, I grew up in Michigan where everything, that you always told people where you live by using your left hand. And I've been doing this in the office now and even traveling with meeting planners, and it's highly effective. San Francisco is the little tip of your thumb, and there you see the rest of it. So from now on, when you travel, this is what you're going to remember, right? And you're going to say and do. Now, I will make the offer. We do have some marketing dollars. If anyone wants to get a tattoo, I'd be happy to help underwrite that. It's highly effective. When I did run around the office with a Sharpie asking who had a nice hand, I noticed people were under their desks. So with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jamillah Moore, President of Cañada College.
Can you hear me? Oh, yes, you can. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Okay. And so my part, I'm going to talk about California community colleges and specifically one, Cañada. Some of you may be thinking, really, community college? Well, as Roseanne and the team had mentioned earlier, a lot of the work we do in San Mateo County and Redwood City is that of collaboration. And many of the folks I get the wonderful opportunity to work with, we have not been able to get where we are today had it not been for collaboration. So community colleges are extremely important because right now we are trying to help lower the cost of higher education. How many of you have a niece, nephew, or child on their way to college? Yes. And how many of you thought about, how am I going to pay for this? Yes. I'm a cost-effective solution to that issue, but I'm also an economic workforce training solution. And so as a community college, we work in a dichotomy in the sense that we are either helping to train people for the workforce or helping people make that transition to a four-year institution. Although I don't think four-year institutions really exist anymore because most people take 5 to 6 years, but that's what we'll call it. So I have the wonderful opportunity to work at Cañada College, which is one of 3 institutions in the San Mateo County Community College District. California community colleges are the largest higher education system in the world. We have 113 colleges, 72 districts, 2.8 million students are served. So most of you may not be aware, but there's probably a community college somewhere close to you or in your backyard in the state of California. So when we talk about getting ready for the future in the workforce, that really cannot happen without a community college because according to the Public Policy Institute of California, in 2025, the state of California will need many more people trained for degrees and certificates. Where community colleges, and specifically Cañada, become a very important part to this process is that we are degree and certificate granting institutions. So we not only are working to put people into jobs, but we also are helping individuals get to that next stage in their career. And as most of us know, no matter where you go, or at least as my mother used to say, I don't care what you do, but if you get a college degree, no one can take that from you. So what we are trying to do is work in collaboration with many of the businesses in and around San Mateo County, and not only doing economic workforce training, but also degree granting. So one of the things that we look at in our research is what's coming up next as the trends in development, and that's STEM, science, technology, science, engineering, mathematics, and technology. We have an entire STEM center at Cañada, so we help many students. As I say to folks, because I'm a community college, you know, we accept 100% of the people that want to gain entry to college. So we are really helping to close the achievement gap, but also get people up to their next level. So I work with folks who are either first time coming into college or those who are students who need a little bit of a higher push that they're not getting in their current educational institution. So California needs 1 million more AA certificates or industry valued credentials, according to PPIC, as I had indicated, by 2025. We are not going to meet that mark. And so for us, it's a community college somewhere close to you, or specifically Cañada. I'm a little biased in Redwood City that we're working really hard to help close that gap, so to speak. But it's not only a degree and certificate gap, it's also an achievement gap. For some individuals who did not get everything they needed in high school, it's usually a community college that will help train them or get them ready to make that transition. Just last Saturday, Cañada College had its commencement ceremony. And we had about 600 individuals that are 652 graduates. Not all of them participated in the ceremony, thank God, we did not have enough room. But those that did, many of them were making their transition to a four-year institution. And here's one of the things that I've come to find in my line of work. Most people usually don't tell you where they start college, they usually tell you where they finish. Like, I came out of University of San Francisco, I came out of Berkeley. But I'm happy to say, Justin, you're one of ours. You came out of the San Mateo District, College of San Mateo, and you went on to Berkeley. We had, out of this class, close to 200 students that went into the UC system. And I say that because community colleges are helping to pave the way to UC and CSU opportunities. Many students that came out of Cañada last Saturday in commencement were going to UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and Berkeley. Our student body president had a very difficult choice. She had to choose between Davis, Berkeley, Santa Barbara, San Francisco State. And so she ended up choosing Santa Barbara. But these are wonderful opportunities, Santa Barbara. These are wonderful opportunities for students to have, and especially for students when college is not affordable. Had it not been for financial aid, I myself would not have gone to college. I was the youngest of 6, all girls, raised by a single parent. And so had it not been for programs that are provided, like student support services at a community college, I would not have made it. And the reason why I think we at a community college play such a large role, not only in the higher education cost effectiveness, but in the economic workforce development field, is that we are really trying to make sure we can reach many more individuals and pull them out of poverty and get them access to employment and jobs that can break the cycle of what we call historic poverty, where students and individuals cannot find those jobs that they need. Many of them, had it not been for community college, would not make that transition. I also would like to say that we help to close the achievement gap for those students who did not gain the information and the skill set they needed before. I'm going to use my favorite word, and that word as a parent is called free. How many of you are aware that if you are a high school student in California, you can attend a community college for free? Yes. So for some of our students, if you know that, this is a great opportunity in really getting students not only prepared, but being cost effective, because for most of us, depending on where you want to go to school, you're going to need more than a BA, you're going to need a master's. So we look on the side of being cost effective. In California, you can take up to 11 units per semester as a high school student for free. At Cañada College and in the San Mateo district, we also have middle college high school and concurrent enrollment. If I can find that slide. Yes. So our middle college high school program is a program where students in their junior and senior year of high school will also be taking college courses on site at Cañada College. They had their graduation 2 weeks ago. We had 150 students come out of that program. Those students were getting their high school diplomas and also crossing the stage with 25 to 32 college credits, free. So they are transferring as juniors, or excuse me, as sophomores, and some of them are close enough to getting their juniors at the age of 18. Some of our students also too are concurrently enrolled, which means that they are taking high school courses and college courses, but they're not on the college campus at the same time. This is a type of program that helps not only get students better prepared, but it also closes that affordability gap. And we are happy to say as a community college to help serve those students who otherwise would not be ready to go on. Some of the programs that we do offer in career and economic workforce development is that of, we help students in 3 key areas. When we look at economic workforce development, we're talking about career technical education programs that some of the four-year institutions may not provide, such as auto mechanic, paralegal, and rad tech, so to speak. So how many of you were aware that it's community colleges that train people to take your x-rays? Yes, yes. This is a program where students come in, and it's one of our career technical educational programs. And when students graduate within the 2 years, or 20 months, they can go right into a job. For some students, that's changing their lifestyle, that's changing their actual career and opportunities. We also provide training in paralegal services. Many of our paralegal courses are taught by instructors who are attorneys. So we work in collaboration with those in the legal community. So we are very excited to have the opportunity to continue to work with San Mateo County and within Redwood City, because if it's not for a community college, many of our students would not have the opportunity to get the training that they need to go out into the workforce, as well as to make those transitions and come to work for many of you in your organizations. So I just want to say that we are happy to be a partner of SAMCEDA, but also to be within San Mateo County. And one of our mottos at Cañada College is, "From here you can go anywhere." So we also want to just say thank you for allowing the opportunity for us to participate today. And we look forward to seeing some of you on our campus. Feel free. We are on the top of the hill in Redwood City on Farm Hill Boulevard. But we may be serving some of your students. We may also be serving some of your employees in our training programs. But we look forward to the continued collaboration and working partnership, and want to thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Sadow, CEO and co-founder of Scoop Technologies.
Great, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah? My name is Rob Sadow. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Scoop. So quick show of hands, who's heard of Scoop before in the room? That's pretty good. Okay, so Scoop is a commuter carpooling experience for modern employees. We work with many of the most forward-thinking organizations in the world to actually enable folks to be able to share in a carpooling experience a better way to get back and forth to work on a daily basis. So I have a feeling I'm not going to have as good of a response as who's a 49ers fan, but anybody from Atlanta in the room by chance? Anybody spending time in Atlanta? All right, good. So this is a map of Atlanta. If you see the star in the top middle of the map, that is where I grew up. I grew up with my brothers, my only sibling, also my co-founder at Scoop. That star at the bottom left of the map next to College Park is where my high school was. So when I was 16, my experience of commuting was driving 25 miles each way every day to high school. So I did 250 to 300 miles a week, every week. For us at that time, it was less about the cost of commuting, and it was more about the experience of what it feels like to get back and forth on a day-to-day basis. The stress of whether you're going to be where you need to be on time, your energy level at the end of the day, the way you experience that time, that was a big part of my life and my brother's life growing up. And my brother is about 3 years younger than I am, so when I was a senior, he was a freshman, we started to commute together and carpool back and forth to school. If we stretch that out and think about the US, there are 100 million people that take 500 trips a year back and forth to work driving alone. So 50 billion solo commute trips on an annual basis. If you think about how people experience that time, the chart on the right actually shows you on a scale of 1 to 5 how people actually feel about different things they experience on a day-to-day basis. If you look at the bottom right, commuting alone is below working, is below housework, is below childcare, is below everything else that they surveyed in terms of what people experience on a day-to-day basis. To put it in perspective with just one more statistic, how many folks in this room know people that commute an hour each way every day to work? So commuting an hour each way every day is equivalent to spending 21 days of your year just commuting back and forth. And there are a whole bunch of organizations across the Bay Area and elsewhere where 20 days of vacation is all the vacation you actually get on an annual basis, just to put that in perspective. Now, interestingly enough, if you look at the middle of that chart on the right-hand side, commuting with others actually ranks significantly higher experientially, which is a lot of what we'll focus on today. Carpooling historically is almost viewed as a dark mode. And what I mean by that is not that it's a bad thing to do. In fact, everyone's agreed for generations that carpooling is a good thing to do, but more that it was untrackable. When you think about carpooling historically, there's no way to know if people actually carpool. You can't measure the impact of it. It's hard to invest against. Historically, it's just been something that you can't really see. And if you think about the population that carpools, about 10% of commuters carpool back and forth to work. But about 80% of it, plus minus, is actually couples or significant others who are sharing trips into and out of a city or into and out of work. And so historically, a pretty inaccessible mode. It's one of the reasons, for example, that when you think about pre-tax commuter benefits, you actually can't use it toward carpooling because it's been very hard to track over time. But all of a sudden, in the last couple of years, that's actually changed for the first time. Technology has actually made us comfortable with the idea of what it means to use an application to get back and forth to work, or to get back and forth on an actual trip, a mile or 2 miles in a city. And actually, the concept of sharing between people, between strangers, is actually transformed over the last 5-10 years. Whether it's sharing a trip, or whether it's sharing your house, or sharing another asset like a car, we're in a fundamentally different place now than where we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This unlocks tremendous opportunity for us, and all of a sudden brings carpooling into the light for the first time in terms of tracking it or using it as a mode. And so, what are the implications of that? Well, it actually means that for the first time, we actually know that people share trips. We can incentivize those trips and actually see what the impact is of incentivizing those trips, how it influences supply or demand. it becomes a controllable mode for the first time, meaning that if an enterprise or an office park or a city or a county actually invests against carpooling, you actually can see the number of trips that generates and what the impact is and compare it to other modes. And so now for the first time, we actually have a recipe for what it actually means to encourage commuter carpooling, whereas before that was very difficult to do. So what does Scoop do as a company? We actually bring the best of all of those pieces together. We bring technology that actually makes it possible for people to carpool in a simple, flexible, dependable way on a trip-by-trip, day-by-day basis. We create a social experience, which is actually one of the things that we hear most about from commuters, is the fact that you can actually meet somebody who works at your company but might work in a different building or a different function that you never would have met otherwise. Or you can meet someone who lives in your neighborhood and happens to work across the street that you never otherwise would have met. Bring something delightful on a personal level to the experience of commuting, which is generally not thought of that way. And we actually allow you to track your progress, the number of trips you take, the impact you have personally and as a community in a way that's rewarding in a personal and aggregate level. On top of that, we partner with organizations to do a few things. One is that allows us to create density, enough people who are going into and out of an area that you actually can share trips back and forth. Two, it creates trust. You're messing with how somebody gets to work on a day-to-day basis, and actually you actually hear about a carpooling service or a carpooling solution from a trusted source like your employer or your city government. And three, we actually can generate better economics, make rides cheaper, increase reimbursements to drivers to make it more attractive to carpool versus to drive alone. And so if you pull those things together, what we've been focused on over the last year and a half is how do we extend and magnify the impact of what we do to enable commuters to carpool back and forth on a day-to-day basis. We started with Cisco at the very end of 2015, and now thousands of Cisco employees in San Jose use Scoop to carpool back and forth to work. In April of 2016, we launched our first office park partnership with Stanford Research Park, and Stanford Research Park employees take more than 10,000 trips a month back and forth carpooling. Just late last year in October, we did our first city partnerships. And Dante, I think you're in the room. So Dante at Foster City and also City of San Mateo were our first pilot partners for city partnerships. And we actually discounted all rides going into and out of those areas for Scoop carpoolers. And over the pilot period, which is a little bit less than 6 months, they took 30,000 trips, and growth actually was more than 10% each week in carpool trips from the beginning to the end. That's paved the way for other city partnerships, and now most recently the City and County Association of Governments putting out a $700,000 RFP to encourage carpooling into and out of San Mateo County. So just a few examples of the progress that we're making and tracking and actually encouraging people to find a better way to get back and forth to work on a day-to-day basis. And so what does that really mean if you think about the future, not just of San Mateo County or the Bay Area, but more broadly? We're creating an opportunity to actually make it structurally more attractive to carpool versus to drive alone on a day-to-day basis back and forth to work. And it's actually the linkage, the interplay between counties, cities, office parks, and enterprises that makes that possible. An overlapping network that's trusted and also creates the right economic incentives to make that a reality. Today, Scoop commuters take more than a million miles together each month that they reduce in their actual driving back and forth to work. And these types of partnerships that I showed on the previous page are actually the kind of things that'll push it forward and bring it to mainstream. So I wanted to share just a lot of the progress, and a big thank you to San Mateo County for being so forward-thinking when it comes to pushing carpooling and better ways to get back and forth.
So what I'd like to do right now is actually two things. One, I want to thank Randy Smith and the Oracle team, because having the ability to be invited here to use this space is just fantastic. Let's give a big shout out to Oracle. And then what I'd like to do is invite our THRED Talk speakers back on stage so that you can once again see them, show them some San Mateo County love. Jamillah Moore, Dr. Moore, unfortunately had to leave because she had to catch a plane. We felt that was okay. Felt that was, fine. But I want to invite them back up. So if all of the THRED Talk speakers could come back up. I think we need to think about them in their respective roles, but they're part of a greater ecosystem. So I don't know about many of you, but love the 49ers, know they're going to go to a Super Bowl, and we all need to support them. Starship Technologies, I want to thank State Senator Jerry Hill. He brought me into his office over a year ago to meet with Starship, and that's when the introductions started to happen with our local communities. And I don't know about you, but every time I see our little guy going through our city streets, I friggin' get really excited. So I can't wait till they can come up to the hills. So hug a robot, that's what you need to do. So thank you, Justin. Ferry service is the new way to travel, and James and his vision for boats on the bay and for commuting, this is our future, folks, and James has that vision. He's a great guy to work with, so I would encourage all of you. I know we have our Redwood City Ferry folks, Loriana Kastrop, in the room, so thank you. We're going to push through these ferries. And Ann LeClair, honestly, Ann is a very dear friend. Everyone hold up your hand, okay? Look at this. Okay, it's the other hand. So, hold up whatever hand. You have San Francisco, you have the Bay, you have San Mateo County. I'm gonna be using this because it was Ann that now when I travel, I first say to folks, I'm from Redwood City. Some people, oh, do you have a bunch of redwoods? Well, not quite. We have a few more things than that, but we do have redwoods, but I say San Mateo County, just south of San Francisco. And tourism, 43,000 people work in that industry in San Mateo County. That's huge. Thank you, Ann. And Scoop Technologies. I met Rob just a few months ago. I came back from that meeting. I was so excited. I had an employee at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to learn about Scoop. Download it on your phone. I mean, I'm like giving directions. They used it. They drove for Scoop. They were a rider with Scoop. And they're now out there talking about how Scoop is actually changing the way that they commute. And they were commuting back and forth across the bay. So thank you, Rob, and thank you, Scoop. So we are at the end of our THRED talks. You will be seeing what we do after today is each of the THRED talk speakers provides us with a 750-word essay that we compile into a catalog. We build on last year's THRED talk speakers. We add additional folks in, and we push it out to all of you because, again, it's about connections and networking. I want to thank you all for being here today. I want to thank Sherry Sager, the SAMCEDA board. My hat is off to our THRED talk speakers. Thank you. Thank you. And if you have questions, you can come up.
Can I get you this? Come on.